Welcome to AI Future or Fiction. Today we will talk about the authority gap. We will discover if we are ready to entrust our destiny to an algorithm. Imagine a simulation predicts a disaster in 72 hours, but the city is silent. Who decides when data sees what you prefer to ignore? Let's begin then with our story. Imagine the machine has already done its work. In milliseconds, the algorithm processed trillions of data points and delivered its verdict. This is where speed stops dead in its tracks. While data travels almost instantly, human decisions drag through bureaucratic corridors. This is what we call political latency. A leader today faces a cruel dilemma. If they order an evacuation and the storm doesn't arrive, their political career ends that day. They will forever be labeled an alarmist who wasted millions. The fear of a false positive is stronger than the fear of a real catastrophe. We prefer to wait for total certainty before acting. Unfortunately, by the time that certainty arrives, the water usually covers the streets. Our electoral cycles do not align with the urgency of the code. While the algorithm demands immediate action, humans ask for unnecessary reports and consensuses. The paralysis is not technical but purely emotional. What weighs more on your scale? 1,000 lives at risk, or the budget lost in a false alarm? The clock does not stop for bureaucracy. While leaders hesitate, disaster runs its course, ignoring our laws and hierarchies. The conventional answer to this chaos is the human guardian model. It is the firm belief that there must always be a flesh and blood hand on the switch. In this system, we prefer democratic legitimacy over the cold efficiency of code. We need to feel that a fellow human always has the last word. We look for someone to hold accountable if things go wrong. However, this absolute control has an invisible and devastating cost: time. While data flows at the speed of light, the brain processes reality with biological slowness. A leader tries to understand variables that their mind simply cannot encompass. One might wonder, is this control a true ethical safeguard? Or is it just an elegant way to ignore automatic truths that make us uncomfortable? Perhaps you keep the human in the loop out of pure fear. The fear of accepting that the machine has already surpassed us in vision and judgment. In the end, the guardian could be the biggest obstacle to your own survival. The clock keeps ticking while the human silently analyzes the screen. What do you prefer, a justified human error or an algorithmic salvation that you cannot comprehend? Imagine that the algorithm has already marked the exact impact zone. You have digital certainty, but you face a barrier more solid than any dam: the budget. Our financial laws are fossils from a reactive past. They are designed to clean up the disaster, never to prevent it. To release emergency funds, the law usually requires that the damage be real. How do you justify spending millions on a tragedy that doesn't yet exist? If the algorithm is correct, you will have silently saved lives. However, if it fails by a minimal margin, you will be accused of embezzlement. This is the budget of fear. It is the lethal friction between static laws and dynamic algorithms. The current system prefers to punish preventive action and reward the management of ruin. It's a bureaucratic trap where caution is confused with resource waste. As the clock ticks, the money remains locked away. Leaders wait for the first wave to turn prediction into a legal fact. Is an impeccable fiscal balance worth more than a submerged town? The administrative answer is often as cold as it is terrifying. To prevent human fear from stopping the response, a new model emerges: conditional automation. Here, power no longer resides in a hesitating leader. Now it rests in a prior contract of pure logic. Clear thresholds are established. If the water reaches such a level, sirens sound and funds are released. It's the government of if this happens, then do that. In this scenario, your role changes profoundly. You no longer decide at the critical moment of crisis. You become a parameter tuner. You choose the numbers before the storm arrives. However, this efficiency hides a glass trap: algorithmic rigidity. A code doesn't understand exceptions or unexpected human contexts. What happens in the face of a unique event that the algorithm didn't foresee? The system will execute its sentence with mathematical coldness. It will do so even if reality dictates otherwise. By attempting to eliminate human error, you might have created a blind automaton. This system drags us to the abyss by following its rules to the letter. Who is responsible when the order was programmed beforehand? Who answers for the coldness of an automatic trigger? Perfect logic can be at times our greatest death sentence. There's an even more radical proposal, the algorithmic mandate. Imagine that artificial intelligence functions like an independent central bank. It makes critical decisions without political permission to prevent human fear from blocking survival. It is the idea of isolating disaster management from electoral cycles and leaders' doubts. In this model, you hand over the keys to an invisible administrator. You no longer wait for a human to approve the budget or analyze data. You trust that the code will act with the same autonomy with which interest rates are adjusted. You seek pure efficiency, free from the bureaucratic paralysis we face today. However, this pact of salvation comes with an invisible price. By granting this power, you could be facilitating a technocratic coup without realizing it. Who controls the machine when it itself decides what an emergency is? What happens if the algorithm determines that the greatest danger to stability is us? You could end up living under a data dictatorship designed to protect you. It is a scenario where security becomes a cage of perfect logic. The question is no longer whether the machine can save us from disaster. The real doubt is whether anyone can save us from the machine once it takes command. When we hand over control to a system that decides in milliseconds, we enter a legal void called the responsibility gap. Imagine the algorithm orders a demolition to stop a flood but makes a mistake. Who do you hold accountable if the leader didn't give the order and the code can't go to prison? This abyss arises because current laws are obsessed with the moment of impact. We always look for the culprit who pulled the trigger at the last second. However, in this world, the trigger was pulled months ago in a programming office through lines of code. We must stop judging the final action and instead audit the decision architecture. Justice is no longer found in the disaster but in the original design of the system. If the machine fails, the blame falls on those who define the parameters of sacrifice and success. Are you ready for a judge to analyze your morality according to your code? If no one answers for the algorithm's errors, perhaps it's because we are all accomplices of its silence. The culprit is not in the ashes but in the code that decided your destiny long before the disaster. We have traversed the labyrinth of delegated authority, from the doubting guardian to the algorithm that dictates faceless sentences. Now you face the final question. Is the authority gap a flaw that we must repair, or is it the last refuge of our essence? The speed of code offers you a salvation without delay. On the other hand, human slowness guarantees you the right to choose, even if that choice leads to disaster. We are not just designing tools. We are drafting the terms of our own surrender or of an unprecedented form of sovereignty. The future is not a distant event. It is architecture that you build today with your decisions. Do you seek an infallible protector, or do you prefer the chaos of an error committed by a fellow human? By attempting to close this technological gap, you might be closing the door to your freedom of judgment. The true question is not whether artificial intelligence is ready to decide for us. The doubt that should keep you awake is whether you are ready to stop being the protagonist of your own story. Is this the beginning of our ultimate protection, or the prologue of our obsolescence? Thank you for joining us on this journey through the shadows of digital authority. If these questions about our destiny trouble you, subscribe and share your vision in the comments. Your reflection is today our only and last wall against obsolescence. Thank you for watching AI Future or Fiction. Until next time, keep questioning every algorithm before the future decides for you. Are you the architect of your tomorrow? Or are you the data that the machine will ignore to protect us?